welcome class to our lesson on IELTS Writing Task 1, which about the map section. And you know, this part is notorious for its advancement, and you know how hard it could be. So here I want to present you with a comprehensive guide on how to not get lost in the IELTS map. Okay, so first for refreshment, take let's traveling around, but let's talk about. Okay, so here let's have some. Let's have okay. So here we have a map which will contain 10 differences. So could you turn on your mic and tell me which can you spot all the 10 differences? And for each one, you must describe it in English so that I could, point it out there. For example, you could see that the clock here, the time in the clock on the left are different from the right. So I could say that the clock was, okay, so it was a clock, so I would just click on and it will be circled. Okay, so yeah, may I ask for a volunteer who wanna volunteer for the first one? Let's see, may I ask Kim Nguyen?
Yeah. So I think the difference that I see is like in their plate of fruits here, I see like in their the picture in the right or on the right there are only about 3 kinds of fruits, but in the others I can see like maybe 4 because there's something like a banana here.
Okay, so you mean this? Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a pile of fruit, and yes, there was definitely an addition of banana on the left. So congratulations, Kim Nguyen. And and who else gonna volunteer? Maybe I would ask. Okay, so we could describe this pile of fruit as in a plate or maybe on the table in the middle of the rooms. Here are some words that describe locations that we're gonna use, and you could use a lot of words like that in your app map in your map writing. So another one maybe I would call Angyu.
I can see that the color of the pillow on the left and the right is different. Yeah.
Okay, this right.
They're green and the other is yellow.
Yeah. Okay, green and yellow are perfectly found. Okay, so I could describe this as the pillow which was next to the pillow on the right of the couch was in all of different colors. Okay, so great findings. Thank you. So let's turn over to two. Could you give me an example?
Okay, as I can see in the picture on the left, there is a small photo under a wardrobe.
Okay.
While in another side, there doesn't have anyone.
Okay. Okay. So you could say that is a lack of photo. Okay, I'm sorry. I actually just spoiled another one. So here I think that is not really a wardrobe. I think that it will call a ward. In cupboard like that. Okay, so on the top of this, on the left there was like a picture, a small picture, but in the right it was diminished. Okay, so great findings. Thank you. So next, may I call Trọng Nhã, our boy? Could you find me some differences?
I can see that the scenery between the two windows are different.
Okay, which part of the window?
The upper part, like one window has clouds outside and one doesn't have it.
Okay, so the sky outside of the window were different, with one being cloudy and then another was perfectly clear. Okay, I think that about the color, maybe I would call it turquoise. I don't know about maybe turquoise. I do not know that I make the spelling right, but it's a subtype of jewels, and it has a very specific color. Okay, so but that's not what we are concerned right now. So okay, let's move on. Maybe Kim Nguyen, can you spot another?
I think that there, like you see the vase or the small tree in their
Small
window.
trees.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very small, and on the picture on their left, there only like there are three branches of leaves, I guess, and on the
Yes.
others like only one.
Yes, that's right. Because I don't know, but it will call a tree in a pot. So the right one contain only one branch, with the other contain three branches. So of course they are so different. Yeah, two choices. Thank you, Mr. Yan. And okay, we have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Only three left to go. So, and yes, I think that maybe for three people. First, Angel, could you find me another? I made the eight. I made the eight.
I can see that there is something white on the book on the
The
shelf.
books on the shelf.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I could say that. Oh no, sorry. Haha. Sorry, haha. I misclicked that. You mean this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I could say that it was a label, and the books, maybe these are violet books on the right contain no labels, but on the right, on the left, it contains a white big labels written in it. Okay, so we only have one more left, so let's move on to maybe chọn trên rèm tên chi nữa. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. Okay, okay, so yes, I think that you guys have already seen the last one. So it's up to you to describe it. So that at least I can. Okay, please too.
I can see that in the left picture, above the window,
Okay,
um,
about the window.
there is two circles,
The circles.
a curtain
Okay.
hanger, the thing that is above the window.
Yes. Yeah, I do think that it will be called a hanger too, a hanger to our curtains. Maybe
Yes.
a curtain hangers. Maybe I don't know. But yes, I think that you have complete of 10 differences. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the reason why I am presenting this. So in IELTS test, especially the map one, you will have to describe a map using your own word, and most basically, you must describe their location or maybe the changes if possible. For example, I got a map here which describes a school site between the 2004 and prediction to 20, 20, 2020, 2024. So we can see here, so we should describe the changes. For example, you could say that there was a third building in the school. Maybe there was a car park too. There was another car park. The new one was a sports field, and maybe the overall the forests were exploited to making others accommodations. So that so let's move on to the main topic of today's curtain hanger. Yes, thank you. So just like other writing task one, you would have to describe and will be asked to write a report. So or maybe a report, I think a report. The maps, for example, I could have you a topics here, which means that you must describe the map of the town of Greenwood in 1985 and 2005. So to get a comprehensive understanding, first we must understand what is really required from you. The keyword on the questions is select and report, which means that you will select the main feature, the primary features here, and report it. And also you have to make comparisons where relevant, which means that, for example, what have changes from the past to the present, or maybe what has changed after 20 years, like in this example. And also which one you should report and compare the most remarkable features. For example, there are 2, 3 new factories and they changed over the years. And also you need to describe their relative of the site location, which mean what does that mean? For example, you could describe that the green, the yellow factory here was like on the I don't know about the lake on this corner, or maybe you could describe it next to the river, which means relative means that you are comparing its location to others locations, and precise means you are pointing directly at it. Okay, but of course, just like other topics, you should not interpret the changes, which means that you should not, make a guess why the change had happened, or what happened, or what, or why, or maybe what could be viewed further, and do not give your own opinions to avoid any kind of subjects like you, I, we, and in general, just do not use any of those because it's an academic report. And you are not supposed to give your own opinion. Okay, let's move on. That was like the basics, and now we just move on this quickly, which is that the types of map that will make happen. Those first ones that will ask you to describe one map at one time, at the present, for example, or maybe you will describe 2 maps in different times, in different period. For example, you could describe it in the present and comparing to the one in the past, or maybe in the future. Or maybe you could be asked to describe 2 maps from completely different spaces. And there's others motion as well. So the only things that I need you to stay aware of here is the tenses. For example, if you are using like future tenses or past tenses, I think that you need to know the time period, and you do not making the mistakes of faulty tenses, etc. It will highly cost this. It will cost so much of your brand score. Okay, so I think that this part basics. So I will just go really fast to it. We will have one paragraph of introduction in which you will paraphrase the map title, the time period, etc. And you will have another paragraph on overall, which means that you will report the general changes or the overall structures of the change. Basically, you will just mention the most noticeable things, the most remarkable things that happened. And the third part will be body paragraphs in which you will report details, like maybe the location, the precise location, the comparisons that I have mentioned, and you should also make comparison between them. This part can contain 1 or 2 paragraphs. It's all on you, and I don't think that they will like subtract your score for writing only 1 body paragraphs. However, as you could see, it must contain at least 3 paragraphs and up to 4 paragraphs, and a conclusion is unnecessary. Okay, so let's move on to the first part of writing a captivating introduction. So basically, it's considered the easiest part of the test because you all have it in the formulas. So here I got a formula for use, but before that, I would remind you that you should keep your intro sentence simple and comprehensive, which means that it is unnecessary to explore the new vocabulary using fancy words. But the main point is that you must report all the features, or like the time period, or maybe the places there. So I will give you a formula like this. First start with the, and then what kind of picture are they giving you? Is it a diagrams? Is it a map? Or is it a picture? Or don't forget the plurals if there are more than 1 maps. And then go to the next, to the verb. Here are some examples that I gave you. Illustrate, describe, demonstrates. And yeah, of course, don't forget the tenses. It's usually in simple tense, but yet, you can be too careful. And the next one, which did the map describe? Maybe so you will add a complex noun here that describe what is the overall subjects that have been described. For example, let's move on to this. This map is describing like the town of Greenwood in 2 years in two time period. So you will add a complex noun here. Okay, and so how will you using this? For example, the transformation of something like the transformation of Greenwood towns, or maybe how the Greenwood town has changed, or a number of changes which took place in blah blah blah. Basically, of course, you are free to use your own words as this. Here are just some, here are just some things that I suggest, some suggestions. And also you should add like the time period, or maybe other topic features such as divide by two categories. The additional part are completely depend on the topics. So just be creative, but do not go too far. Okay, here are two examples that I could give you. For example, the map shows or describes the growth, which means a correct noun of a village called Charliewood between this time and this time. So in this example, we got the subject, the verb, the verbs, the complex noun, the place, and the time period. Okay, so I think that this is the things that would need to be included in your introduction. And it's just one sentence, so just keep it simple. Okay. Okay, so let's try some things. And I will give you, I will not give you the motion here, and you will have to guess it by yourself. So so can someone please give and make a guess and deliver a captivating introduction for these maps?
Can I?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I will try the introduction, right? The introduction
Yes,
or
only the introduction.
okay, I guess there are two maps give information about the direction of Fredton in two different course in two different times of 1990 and 2012.
Okay, thank you so much, Kim Nguyen. So here are my examples. Okay, so I would say that I use the same verb at Kim Nguyen as it show the developments that have taken place in France over a period of 22 years between 1990 and 2012. So great job, Kim Nguyen. You could see that introduction is really simple. Just applying the formula and you will be fine. Okay, so move on to the next topic, the overall. So unlike the introduction will give you basic data about the maps, about the context, the overall will be one or two sentences that capture the most remarkable features in the given map. You could see right here that the most remarkable features on this map is really noticeable, but in several maps it will be not as such. So just analyzing the map, spending time to analyzing it, and you know how just stick on the most remarkable features. Okay, so you could start the overall with overall, or is it clear that, or and the most noticeable slash remarkable features is blah blah blah. So here I got an example. It was a map of the Porter Road between S8 and 84th and 85th Avenue before and after installation of wider sidewalks. Can you see the wider sidewalks here? A new crossing. Where is new crossing? Bicycle lanes and street trees. There is a lot of details here, but you need to save some of them to describe on your body paragraphs. So only write the most noticeable things that happen here. So okay, so do you think that what is the most remarkable differences between the maps? May I ask, like, and you, maybe?
Well, I guess that the most remarkable difference would be there are more trees on the left picture, on the right picture.
Yeah, right. So I could point some that firstly, overall, the road was highly developed or highly transformed, which into, it was like much, you could see the trees, the street trees, and, there was another lane of for the bicycles. So in general, it would be updated, and, it would be greener with many shady trees on the sides. So yes, good work. And yeah, thank you, Mr. Nguyen. So we got pedestrian road, green space, and modernized. So there's also the words that you could use to boost up your lexical resources points. But of course, it's actually in writing task one. Is it not too extensive for you to use fancy words? This is much more important to use the word that you are familiar with, and to grasp the full understanding, the full meaning of it. So showing up not your languages is necessary, but always make sure you know what you're writing, because misusing, or maybe memorizing languages are heavily punished. Okay, so that's for the overall. Okay, so return to the town of Brenton. Could you describe what is the most general or remarkable change after 22 years in the map? Okay, so maybe I was like Trọng Nhã, please. Could you like give me a sentence to describe the overall changes?
There are very less trees around the area after 22 years, and instead of that, there are more flats and buildings.
Yes, okay, so as I have said, thank you so much. You could say that the greenery space, like the playing fields or the cafe, the parks, was all replaced with more modern facilities, and for example, like the cinema, the techno park, and it would say that the city was heavily modernized. So yeah, just one or two sentences. The first one that captures the overall changes, and the second one captures the most remarkable change, and that's the two sentences for your overall sections. Okay, you will see. Okay, was replaced by modern architecture. Okay, any words you could use is or attributes. Okay, so I cannot actually describe you in the body paragraphs, because you will have to be creative and make your own paragraphs. So I will give you the tools to use this by giving you some nouns for comparisons. For example, you could say relocation, which means that relocate or move. Anything here is relocated. Yes, nothing here is relocated. What a shame. I cannot give an example. here either. Oh my God. Okay, I cannot give an example for this. So I think that I will. For example, okay, relocation, which means that the location of a specific things has changed. So you could say that overall the most blah 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 is the relocation of this, like that, or maybe expansion. Expansions, which mean that it will expanded. The area for this has expanded, has extended. You could also use upgraded because usually when something is expanded, it will also comes with some upgradations, some modernization, etc. Or maybe you could use transformation, which means that it will convert it to another buildings, like for another use, like something like that. And when something is removed, you could use this disappearance, demolish, knock down, of a tree. You can use cleared or chop down. So usually the map you see, the natural scenes, the natural like trees and parks will be usually be removed. So it will be really great for you to use it kind of word, using noun to describe the changes. And if is in contrast, if something is built, you can use construction, build, construct, or erect. Here are some verbs and the nouns that you could use. Or you may use, or if so both something at this appearance, it appeared, and other are contrasted in the same place, then you could say reflexment, which means that something that will build over something else, you would use reconstruct or modernize, etc. Here are just some several examples. And so I will stop for a bit so that you could take a screenshot if you like. Okay, just tell me when you're finished and I could go continue. And I should continue to the next section. Are we okay?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. The next part, the next primary part of the IELTS test is the language of direction and positions, which means that you would have to describe the specific or the relative position of an object. For example, here we have to the left, to the right, in the center of, or leftmost, rightmost. Here are the, this is usually used for comparison. And you could also can use to the north, south, west, east, or the southern, northwest, southeast corner or zone. A little bit of disclaimer here is the fact that the compass will usually be given in each map, and it might change. It might change. So just notice of that, and it will usually sometimes they will only show the north direction, and you have to get the rest. So maybe grab a map now and learn which is to the left of north, which is to the left of south, where is east, where is west. So yeah, you will need a little bit of geography here in order to do the maps. It's the maps after all, right? Okay, so another thing that you could do is to describe the relative direction, which means that you describe which place is this thing as compared to another thing. You could use opposite, above, below, upper, or under. Or you could use for building, you would usually use next to, indoor, outdoor, and surrounded. Okay, here are some words to describe the corner, but I don't think that it will be too important. So just check it out on the slide, or maybe tonight. Oh my God, I have just had a very pretty bad hiccup. Okay, whatever. Okay, so
yes.
Sorry, I would just have a pretty bad hiccup and I could not speak. Okay. So could you use the words I have just introduced here and describe the position and change after 22 years of these several buildings? We have 4 students are currently in the room now. So which one of you will select one building and describe its places? Is that okay? Okay, I will give you like several seconds for preparation. I will maybe Anh for the hospital, Kim Ngân for the shops, and Chap Nhã for the school, and finally Thư for the green space in general. You should describe the position and the changes using the nouns or maybe the language or location I have prepared, or just use the one of your own.
Mọi người giơ tay rồi đấy thầy ạ. Anh
Vâng,
Như
xin
này,
lỗi.
Kim Ngân này. Rồi.
Okay, so first I will invite Anh Như for presentation. Please continue.
So okay, then I can describe the change of the hospital. Like the hospital was extended and it was right beside the high street.
Beside the high street, and it was extended or expanded.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good. Thank you. So let's move on to Kim Nguyen. I have just seen your hand raises. Where it is now?
Okay, so I will describe their shops. Well, you see that in their shops were in the southwest and in 1990, but maybe 22 years later, they are replaced by the supermarkets, also in the same position.
Okay, so since in the okay, thank you and good job. So as you could see, the shops were replaced by the supermarket in the same location of the yeah, I'm not good at map either. This is the east, the southeast corner. But okay, but when the changes are happening in the same location, and it also and these two buildings are also fall into the same categories, you know, like shops. Supermarkets is just an upgraded shops, right? So you could say that it was like upgraded or it was modernized instead of replacement. I think that it would that I think that both kind of saying is acceptable and it's really good. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Maybe Chap Nhã. Can you describe the changes in position of the school? More to say the same, but that is also worth for staying the same.
Nhã I'm lagging. Chắc gọi Thư trước hả?
Okay, so okay, you will, and you can see the school here is unchanging, but there is also word for unchanging. Let me this. Okay, so maybe we will check Thu's answer before. Okay, Thu, can you help me describe the green space?
Yes, in terms of their green spaces, I can see that to the left of to the left of the map in 1990, the trees were cleared, following by the playing fields with trees, which is to their east. And in addition to that, the cafe and the park was replaced by a hotel and golf course during their 22 years.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I think that a pretty great answers that just speaks for itself, and I don't think that I won't need to add anything else. Great job too. Okay, so okay, yeah. Can you now? Are you okay with your internet connection now? And can we start now?
I think yes.
Okay, so please describe the school.
Okay, so in 1990, the school is located in the northwest corner of the map, and it stays the same after the.
Okay, so as you can see, the changes here are pretty boring. It would stay the same, but you would have fancy description for this as well. You could say remain unchanged or remain unaltered. Okay, I will type the word in the chat box because remain unaltered, which means that nothing that is stopping it. Remain unaltered, remain unchanged. There is fancy word or basically staying the same as well. So don't forget. I think that basically covers the important part of map. And so there I will give you some bizarre examples of a very hard to understanding graphs or maps. And this thing are what makes the maps the most notorious types of IELTS writing task one. So maybe someone could try to tell what the heck is going on in this. Or maybe I will just take it for myself. Okay. Yes. So I think that what the heck's going on in here? So first I could think that maybe in the so when you are looking at a map like this, the first thing that you're gonna see is obviously the description, for writing an intro, and then you will need to look at the symbols here, like the main roads, the motorways, the railways, and the time period. The things mainly that okay, so which means that in the 1868 to 1883, the college word by village was only this small. But then several years later, it has been expanded to the this place to the side that we need the railways. You can see, and then it will further expanded in the next 20 years, 50 years along the railways, and then in the last time period, it was expanded along several crossroads between the motorways and the main roads, and the railways and the main roads. Okay, I know that this is kind of like confusing, but from my point of view, we could describe the location by using the word of crossroad, which means, for example, this thing over here is a cross. It is a cross of motorways and railways, and also you will notice that the motorways were built in 1970, and the railways were built in 1909. And so you could say, and which part, and it will come together with the development, with the expansion of the village as well. You can see here the railway built in this time, which is the same time when it was developed. It will expand further to the south. Okay, so another example I could say here, in this map you already have only the north arrow, and since the north is there on the top, which means that on the bottom it will be south, on the right side it will be east, and the left side it will be west. It's just like the Vietnamese map in real life. Okay, so this map is kind of like unconventional. So it will describe up to two possible sites for the schools. So I think that in the map you will have to describe the site one, which is like on the I don't know, maybe on the east side of the Canterbury, or maybe it's on the countryside near the housings, and or maybe in the side two. It was in the middle of the town centers where it's no traffic, and I can say that it was far away from the university, and it is in between the housings. And also, I think that you could say that in the side one, it was closer to Surrey, and in side two, it was closer to Chatham. But overall, it just asks you to describe the possible sites. So yeah, just move with this, do what the topic want you to do, and do not just going off topics. It will be really costly. Okay, so I think that all conclude my presentation on IELTS Math today. So thank you guys for listening, and I am always eager to answer your further questions. So do any of you have other questions?
Any question hỏi thầy lại đi. Miss để lượt cô hỏi là chết đây. Any question guys, or is all great? All good already?
May I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Can you tell me how to divide the graph, like you know, in 2 or 3 graphs related to their characteristics or something?
Which means that how should you divide into 3 paragraphs, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there are many methods to do this. First one that I usually do is divided by time period. For example, over there, you could say that before the introduction of railways and before, and the last one for the motorways and from 1922 to 1994. That's the one way. Another way is here. Another way is I would describe it like this. The first paragraphs I will describe the most noticeable changes. If you are not going through time, you could describe the most noticeable changes. Like we have the greenery space, the hospital, the supermarkets, and yes, that's probably like this. And in the second paragraphs, you could go with relatively smaller changes or things that are staying the same, such as the school here, the theater will go updated to the cinema, the houses will go updated to the block of flats, and an introduction of new plants over there. So basically, you will divide it like the first one was the most noticeable, the most remarkable features, and the second one for the less common. Or you can divide it by time period, or by like by to the left of the high street, to the right of the high street. But I think that you should divide it so that you will have much more room for comparisons, which means that put the very different things which are the very different things or very similar things which are in one paragraph, so that you could have more room for comparisons. Okay, so
Thank
will
you.
that
Wonderful.
okay?
Yep, great. Thank you. Rồi các bạn hài lòng hết chưa? Xong chưa? Xong rồi thì vỗ tay hoan hô thầy nào. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's awesome. Rồi được chưa? Ai hỏi